All right. Yes, indeed. The Beatles. That's for my guest today, Charles Keyes, who spent some time in England, one of the many places he's lived in his travels. And Charles Keyes is the instructional services librarian at the LaGuardia Library. He's also the former chair of the LaGuardia College Senate. And he's on today to discuss the Senate's archive project. Welcome, Charles.
Uh, Welcome and thank you, Hugo, for having me on.
Yes, of course. It's. I think it's actually kind of fascinating that you've never been on before. Thing is, like we've been hanging around together for 10 years, and you haven't. And I've been doing the show all this time, and I haven't had you on here sooner for something.
Yeah, well, I've only been able to watch a couple because usually it's on, I get the emails, and then I'm in the middle of something, either teaching a library session or in a meeting. So um, I caught a couple this year, and it's really good that you've kept this going all through the pandemic and everything else. So
That that being,
kudos to you.
the thanks for that are go to Dr. Riccio, the station manager, and Chris Pope, our engineer. They're the ones that have kept it going. I'm just, where I am, you know,
Well, my thanks to
no
them as
real
well.
clown. I just run around and make sure nobody gets hurt. So what I told you I'd make you talk about yourself in the beginning, like to introduce yourself, tell people a little bit about your background, your studies before coming to LaGuardia.
Okay. Well, I got a degree in English. I was an ESL teacher at the Buffalo Board of Education for a few years. I worked on doing Gopher work on UNEDBAS, on a UNEDBAS project, the United Nations Education Bureau for the Arab States, as it was called back then. Um, and very early on, I started to focus on the world around us, international issues, global issues, not only because of the work I was doing, but because of the people I met. Um, After my work at the Buffalo Board of Education, I ended up going to Japan. I taught ESL there. I worked for Mobil Oil, several other companies. Um, and it was during my years in Japan where, when the Japanese economy started to fold in on itself, people started to form unions, just like you've heard about the vote at Amazon. As conditions worsen, people feel that their interests aren't being looked after. So at the time we worked for Mobil, the Japanese and English teachers got together. We formed a union. Um, no one else wanted to be the president, kind of. It was one of these situations where you're in a line and somebody says, take one step forward. And then by the time you realize it, the 10 other people next to you have taken one step back. So you're standing out in front. So I tried to do the best I could. I got very interested in labor unions, the issues that day laborers in Japan were facing, immigrants from other countries like Iran, Peru, Brazil. Um, I did that, and then eventually did a lot of negotiations, learned a lot, learned that it's not as easy as one would think when you're negotiating, and especially when you hold none of the cards. It's very difficult. Um, During that time, we needed to get information about the parent company that we were working for. It was a subsidiary of Mobil, and the only place we could get it was through somebody who knew how to search a database, and that person was a librarian. And I was very impressed with the speed and the amount of information she was able to find, which really helped us in our negotiating stance. That I said, this might be interesting. Came back to Buffalo, spoke with a friend who was then an assistant director at the University of Buffalo Libraries. And I told him, I could see where teaching people to find information would become important. He said, well, you got the perfect background. You're a teacher, and you have this passion for finding information. And so that's why I did my library degree. I came back downstate. I spent nearly 2 years at the SUNY College at Old Westbury, and in 2003, I came to LaGuardia Community College. And I was then put in charge as the coordinator of instruction. At that time, everything was done in paper. I moved everything online and started to network with other departments to generate interest in the credit courses that we offered at the library. From there, I got more and more interested in the college. I ended up being an alternate in the college senate. I was also the coordinator of the international studies option. And when we revamped the curriculum for that option, I had to go and represent the option and present it because
Where?
I was a faculty member. Yes.
Oh, at the Senate.
In the Senate, yes. And at that time, you presented things before the full Senate. And then I became an alternate, and things sort of took off from there. Again, I took on a job that nobody really wanted, being secretary. And eventually, I became chair.
Yeah, I remember, and we actually met when because I remember coming to the library because I was trying to find out about study abroad, and somebody had said to me, "Go see Charles Keyes," and I went to go see you, and you turned me on to the Gilman. Was it the Gilman folks? Was it the Gilman folks?
Yes, right. The Gilman Scholarship, the International Education Council, I think.
Yeah.
Down in Houston.
And I eventually went there and met some folks, and then that led to the grant that I got, which interestingly was written by Bob Kahn, former chair, who was there. Were you the first chair right after Bob left that position?
I was. There was a sort of an emergency in terms of there was nobody. Again, Bob Kahn was the chair for I don't know how many years, 3 years, 4 years maybe.
The period of time when the Senate, and people don't remember this, but the Senate was not meeting because they had to redo the plan or something. I think we went through a period where the Senate wasn't meeting because they had to redo the governance plan.
Because of quorum.
Oh, is that
right?
too? And I don't know how
Yes.
they changed it, but Bob was the first chair, and when I started coming as an alternate, and the humanities department, and yeah, it's probably 3 sounds about right. 3 years for Bob Kahn's tenure in that role.
So there was a bit of a vacuum, and there were some people who came up and sort of said, well, why don't you try throwing your hat into the ring? So there was an election, and yes, for better or worse, I ended up becoming chair and holding that position for 3 years. But it was very interesting. When you come into LaGuardia, when you came into LaGuardia at that time, you looked around and you were a bit mesmerized by everything that was going on. And then when I became chair, what I began to notice was, well, why are all these task forces being formed when there's a body, the College Senate, that's already in place to do a lot of the work that was being asked of people? And I said, it just makes transactional costs a lot lower if you use what's already in place. And to my surprise,
I was going to say,
go ahead.
it doesn't cost you more if you're basically utilizing the same workforce to do more work for the same, salaried position.
Well, if you have to set up a committee and you have to set up an infrastructure, then you're spending more time on it. Whereas the College Senate is already there. It has the infrastructure. It has the governance plan. There's a committee of faculty already in place, and other standing committees. And what I had found was a disconnect between these committees and the College Senate. And I would go to the Committee of Professional Development, and people were kind of surprised to learn that they were actually a College Senate committee.
Right.
Because everything seemed to have come down from the president's office. So everybody just assumed that they were a creature of the college rather than the Senate. So that's what I saw my role as, is to reestablish the connection between the College Senate and these committees that had become orphaned. And that's what I thought would be my greatest contribution. Yes.
Yeah, I remember you every time they'd send out an email and they would leave off College Senate as part of their name. And they weren't the only committee that did that. Many committees. But again, and Patricia Sokolsky, in her role as chair, has also done a great deal to get that kind of stuff in line. But we should talk. You're on the show not so much to talk about, though you will be talking about your own role in the College Senate. We're also kind of introducing the fact that it's a kind of a history project, right? An archives project of the history of the Senate through interviews of former chairs. And we've got a list put together of all the people that are still here that were former chairs, right?
Well, that's right, Hugo. I was approached by the current chair of the Senate, Christy Bruns, and she said the Senate had an idea for someone to be in charge of the Senate history. And there was one other person who was interested, Loretta Capuano. So we got together. Loretta has been a senator for a very long time. Loretta has an insight when things are discussed. Her main thoughts is always, well, what does this mean for the students? So what do you mean there's going to be a seminar that's 0 credits that the students are charged tuition credits for? What does this mean? So Loretta would always ask the hard questions. Now, whether those questions are answered, I'm not going to get into that. But I work well with Loretta. I admire Loretta. And we asked at one meeting for volunteers, and we had one volunteer, someone from your department, Professor Sumant Inokunda, to join us. And you're right, we're working with you. We approached you, seeing that you have this web radio program where you interview people, where it would be really good to interview people involved with the Senate. Now, you're right. Our list so far does include mostly chairs, but that's not who we want to see interviewed. We feel that the history of the Senate is embodied in everybody that has a role in the Senate. So we're looking at, of course, chairs, parliamentarians, chairs of standing committees, both current and former, We're looking to get insight into why people feel the College Senate is important, why they want to do this work, because a lot of times it's work that goes unremunerated. It's just part of the service to the college. What people feel needs to be worked on, things like that. So we want to get sort of a picture in time of the work of the College Senate. Now, of course, there are minutes that are assiduously taken, they're uploaded, but we thought for this history project that it would be more of the stories of the people involved and their memories of the controversies and how the Senate did, not only to have a history in place, but hopefully to have something of a learning tool where people involved in the Senate would be able to go and listen to people talking and say, oh, well, this maybe happened before. What happened then? What were the mistakes that were made? What were the things that were done really well? So that's the kind of thing I feel that Loretta, Professor Inokunda, and myself are striving to do. So we're trying to get the past and the present and to sort of make the College Senate a living organism on campus.
Well, I mean, I think it is a living organism, but we're trying to capture what the institutional memory, right? So that people can look back.
Yes.
I mean, it came up interestingly enough. I've been working on this Hispanic Heritage Center, and I kept making the case that we should try to model it on existing centers. For example, the Women's Center and the LGBTQIA plus safe zone hub, and started trying to find. I went to Thomas Cleary, and asked what we had in the archives, the institutional archives at the library on the Women's Center, and he had some articles. But there was, I would have liked to have seen more. I remember it was an announcement, and I forgot who it was that had started it. But again, how did that start? Where did that, whose idea was it? And where did they get their initial funding? And where's their when you start a center, typically there's somewhere there's supposed to be a document, and chances are it's probably the CUNY Central, but I haven't, so, but this is good in the sense that when you were talking and you were saying parliamentarians, I started remembering Jerry Ianni, who's on that list, who are, a professor of mathematics, and until Leslie Scamanca, started, the current parliamentarian, Leslie S., took on that role. Jerry used to have to come in for the elections. He had been a former chair before Bob, before the rewriting of the governance plan, and everybody wanted him to come back, and he wouldn't do it. But he always acquiesced to. He'd be the parliamentarian for the elections to get them started, and so it'd be interesting to get Jerry's story down.
Yes, he's very detail oriented, and to be honest, he helped me out quite a bit because I would go to him because of his experience as chair, especially because we had a big controversial issue that came before the Senate when I was chair, and it was good to bounce things off of him.
Pathways?
Yes, it was Pathways. And
I was there. I remember.
It was not only at LaGuardia, but throughout CUNY, and the union was involved. The University Faculty Senate
and we
was
still
involved.
We still hold to the position that the administration usurped the power or the oversight of curriculum by faculty in, pushing pathways through. And I still bring that up whenever I get a chance because all we have is infamy. The only tool we have many times to bring up what's in the past.
Well, the Senate, the College Senate at LaGuardia did. There was a motion for a moratorium on passing curriculum, and that did pass. And the thing that I tell people, the Senate is a collective body. It's not just one person. I'm the chair, but the Senate, the Senate is not the chair, and the Senate is not one particular person. The Senate is the voice of the people that it represents, and in our case, students, staff, and faculty. So when something is passed by the Senate, an individual may bring it up, but it no longer belongs to that individual. It belongs to the Senate, and it comes out of the Senate. So we did have a moratorium on curriculum, and you know, it's always important. A lot of times, I can't emphasize enough when I came in the number of people who, while aware of the governance plan, might not have read it. And a lot of the questions and queries that people had were explained quite plainly in the governance plan. And
Isn't that the
you know, even
chair's?
yes, go ahead.
Well, isn't it the chair's job to remind people that it is in the governance plan? I mean, between the parliamentarian keeps Robert's rules, but the chair has to kind of remind folks of, well, you know, we have a committee for that, right? And we don't need to create an ad hoc committee in order to get something done.
I don't know so much as, I mean, I think if chairs have had that governance experience and been on the Senate, they might know that. But I think it also comes down to the person who's the senator for that department to remind people in that department, because quite often people don't know. And so I think there's a lot of responsibility on that elected representative. And, you know, I don't know what the chair's purview is, but, you know, every department elects, or every constituency group elects a representative. Right, so every academic department has a senator. And once that person becomes senator, I think it's the job of the Senate to educate the person and to say, this is what you need to know. I think I would always bring up that, okay, everybody needs to read the governance plan, but you know, I'm not assigning it for homework, and I don't think any chair any chair of the Senate would assign it for homework. But if you're working
If I'd
at
ever
LaGuardia, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
that I would have if I'd ever been chair. And in fact, as I remember, when I was chair of the committee of committees and a committee of faculty, I had talked about some sort of orientation for new senators, particularly the students who come in and represent a third of the body and may or may not know Robert's rules, may or may not know the bylaws, may not know how things, because a lot of times what happens in let's say one academic or calendar year of the Senate is that, you know, in the beginning it takes a little bit to get going because the election happens in the fall and we have to get people in, and then the committees are formed, or so to, you know, they get together. Sometimes you have committees who come up with the wish lists of things they want done. Sometimes you don't, and then those things have to be divided or taken care of. I mean, I remember Bob Kahn used to take care of everything. We'd give him a wish list, and by the next meeting, he'd accomplished most of it, except those things that he needed the Senate for. But you know, then you start running out of time, and as we move towards the summer, and particularly with students, we also start running out of students. I don't know if we've ever since they came up with the stipend for students. Hopefully, that's made things better. But since I haven't really been at the Senate for I don't know how many years, ever since I've been at the UFS, and I'm coming up on I think 7 years now or something. I don't know what's actually happening day to day. But I remember these were some of these issues that were going on. You know,
Yeah, the students represent an issue in and of themselves, because you're right. They don't usually, when people either staff or faculty become senators, they've been at the institution for a couple of years. They have an understanding of how things work. Students are with us, hopefully not a very long time. There's very little understanding. The elections are held right at the beginning of the semester. Many of them are new. Attendance can be an issue. When Bob Kahn was chair, there were stipends. Once he left, those kind of dried up. Though we did put together a sort of an orientation for them, and especially because students vote on curriculum, it's very important to sort of understand. It's like sort of giving students peer-reviewed articles. If they're not knowledgeable about the whole idea of curriculum, seeing a curriculum proposal can be very daunting. So I think students.
it's 1:30. A quick station break.
Okay.
So, yeah, you're watching What's Going On. I'm your host, Hugo Fernandez, here on LaGuardia Web Radio, WLGR. My guest today is Charles Keyes, who is an instructional services librarian at the LaGuardia Library. He's also the former chair of the LaGuardia College Senate. And we're on here to discuss the archives project, the Senate's archive project. And maybe we should talk about, I mean, I don't know if you want to finish your thought, but also we should start talking about, so who's on this list of people so far that are going to be interviewed on the radio show?
Well, I don't want to sort of like call out names in public. I think we sort of just have an idea of people. I could just say they represent past chairs, current and past chairs of standing committees. We haven't, some regular members who were involved with the Senate quite some time ago, to sort of get more of a historical context. We haven't really finalized the list. What we want to do is get the list down and then send out invitations to people. I don't want to put people on the spot on the air if anybody's listening to this. But hopefully they will come, because, like I said, the minutes gives you something, but when you hear, they don't give you the passion that a lot of people have for governance and why they do it. So at that point, we're really not, we're still putting together the list of people.
Yeah.
Well, and whether it's going to be a radio interview or just sort of a digital story kind of thing, where people just talk about what they did, we don't know. And who knows? If I call a name, maybe somebody doesn't want to come on. So I don't really want to get into that situation.
All right. Well, I've seen the list. I could certainly name names, but I will leave you to it. But, again, it goes back to this. As far as I'm concerned, anybody who's participated in the Senate over the years, it would be fair game for this project. Because like you said, I mean, the chairs know some things, but then people have found themselves in all these different roles. Like Will Fulton, for example, who was the representative for humanities after I left. He took over not only he was first an alternate, then he took over my seat for humanities. Then he also took over the chair for Committee of Committees. And he did a lot of great work, actually, with what I was talking about, was orientations. I sat in on at least 2 orientations that were specifically focused on student senators, because we felt, they needed as much support, the most support. And, that was good work. And he really turned that committee. I mean, when I was the chair of that committee, and I got that committee because Bob Kahn just said to me, "Hey, why don't you take this committee?" And it was basically I was by myself. I had notions of trying to build a committee out of chairs of existing committees, but they were already doing a lot of work and didn't want to have one more meeting, so that never worked out. But there's people that in all kinds of parliamentarians, right? And what's that like? Leslie has done a lot of work getting people up to speed with Robert's rules, and that's not easy doing because most people, they look at Robert's rules, they find them overwhelming. Many of them see them as a vehicle to repress people, like the people using the rules to against people, whereas what they're supposed to be are the opportunity for everybody to have the equal opportunity to speak and get work done. But they can be, until you know how to use them, can be daunting. So, but yeah, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, we're prepared here. We'll go on record here. WLGR, we're ready to talk to anybody from the Senate who's prepared to tell us any aspect of the things they do. Every senator. I remember a lot of the people I worked with. For example, the adjunct senator. I can't remember his name now, but I remember I worked with somebody for many years who was we only have one person, one adjunct at the Senate. Meanwhile, adjuncts make up 60% of the classroom workforce, the instructional workforce. We have and he would talk about that with me all the time, like how do I go about representing all these people, many who he couldn't even figure out how to get a hold of. So there's been a lot of people who've done a lot of great work, but obviously the chairs know where all the bodies are, and that's why you like to get them on the air.
Well, I think chairs, they have their own responsibilities, and they look out for a certain area of the college. They're responsible for their faculty. Where's
not the chairs of departments, the chair.
The chairs of the committees.
Chair of the Senate. I mean, the chairs don't. It's taken some time to explain to the chairs that the P&B committee is part of governance. That's taken some time to do, and which would mean that they fall under the Senate in some respect, I guess. But anyhow.
Well, I think it's you come in and past practices sort of take over, and you say, okay, this is how it was done, and somebody has an idea of how it was done in the past, and then that becomes the way it's done in the present. But again, the governance plan is a very strong document. And I think at one meeting it was brought up that somebody suggested the college senate investigate something, and somebody said, well, the college senate can't do that, it's not allowed to investigate. And I think actually that's what the college senate can do very well.
Yeah, I thought that's what we had to do.
We had an ad hoc committee on student transfer that came out with a report that interviewed Justin Rogers Cooper was the chair of that. He interviewed a lot of the constituencies. He found out about the whole idea of the credit card debt that students were in. It got the administration to take notice because I was brought in with Provost Arcario, and then at the time Vice President Baston, and they looked at the report and they said, yeah, we're going to work on these, we want to do this, we want to do that, we want to do the other. So the college senate is capable of seeing where the cracks are, and it does have a responsibility to help to repair the cracks. and to make the institution as smooth running as possible. And, I don't think there needs to be sort of this shadow structure where the administration sets up committees where, like I said in the beginning, the College Senate is more than capable of doing that. And the College Senate has shown its worth.
I think one of the things we should say is that we have a new administration that, and Kenneth Adams as president has become a regular attendee of Senate meetings. He's reported at meetings. He participates. He listens, and he thinks highly of shared governance. I don't know if that's always been the case here. I mean, Paul was certainly very supportive. Paul, in fact, made great strides getting the chair of the Senate, as part of the president's cabinet, as well as the faculty council chair on that body.
Right.
We've made a lot of progress, but it wasn't always that way. You're right. There was a whole kind of a shadow thing going on.
It's taken time,
Right.
First for the College Senate to realize it's a serious body.
Right.
And then once people realize they're on a serious body, then the college begins to realize it's a serious body. And yes, all these people, all the VPs in the college, they are all ex officio members,
right.
Ex officio non-voting members of the college. College Senate meetings, sorry, not of the College Senate. So yes, you remember when we had name tags, it was always the president's name tag, the vice president, the provost name tag. Every VP has a seat in the Senate. Again, they're ex officio, meaning just by reason of their position, they are members of the Senate. They're not voted on. They don't vote in Senate elections, and they cannot vote on curriculum. So they're ex officio non-voting. And it would be really great to see not only President Adams and Provost Arcario, but for other VPs to show up as well in the Senate meetings. It's not like we need to invite people to come. No, they are members. They can come at their leisure, kind of. But it would be nice if their leisure included some time just to come down to see what goes on at the College Senate.
I don't think anybody in LaGuardia has a lot of leisure time. Too busy daring.
Well,
but
I'm
speak to the when you talked about different things that happen. I just want to get it. I famously said on the floor of the Senate that because when we were in some sort of identity crisis, trying to figure out whether we were allowed to do what we were allowed to do and what the value of the reporting was, as I said at that time, either the Senate is everything or it is nothing. And obviously, I believe in the former. But
was that the time I ruled you out of order?
Excuse me?
Was that the time I ruled you out of order?
There's probably a time you ruled me out of order when I was trying to get some clarity about how veteran services are, shared by 4 different agencies here at the college, and I think I was only allowed to ask one question, which went on too long. But
yeah, well, that's the other thing. The meetings are kind of tight, and that was the other thing. Everybody has an opinion. It's just wrangling those opinions,
right.
And it's sometimes it would have been good to see those opinions turn into actions instead of just questions.
I think it goes.
Like you said,
very
few people have leisure.
No, but part of it, I think, is like people figuring out how to do that, taking their ideas and turning them into action. And that's
right.
I say this to the UFS, I say it at their standing committees, I say it at any time. I say the most of the work doesn't happen at those meetings. Those meetings are
Isn't
to come back and report the work that the committee was supposed to have been doing outside of that body. But again,
mm,
getting people to do those things, even when they're assigned tasks, particularly if they're not compensated above and beyond whatever they're doing, you know, takes some doing.
well, when I said at people's leisure, I didn't mean that people had leisure time, but just to emphasize the fact that people don't need a special invitation to go to a college senate meeting. They can just go, and especially the people who are ex officio members,
Well, one of the things
to
that's
show up.
is now that it's on Zoom, and Christy Bruns is sending out the link. Anybody can attend and just listen. They can't speak, but again, it's like watching C-SPAN. And if they don't, obviously, if they've got some skin in the game, if something is being brought up that has to do with them. I remember recording, for example, when we were deliberating over the internships, getting mandated internships, and the co-op department was very involved when it still existed, and many people were involved. And I recorded that for playback. I don't know if anybody listened, but it's recorded, and I have that somewhere. Got to give it to Mr. Cleary for his archive. But again, it's watching people get up and making speeches and not understanding Robert's rules. You're asking a lot of folks, particularly when they don't given any time to speak. By the way,
yeah, go ahead.
Last quarter hour, so we should be talking about the future or taking any questions, which I don't see on the. Wait a minute, I'm gonna look at Twitch. I've got the Twitch behind me, and I don't see anybody offering any questions here. Actually, I have to reload. But
well, I just wanted to say one last thing while we're on that the previous topic about people having skin in the game. Yeah. Everybody has skin in the game. Everybody has a senator, and should have voted for a senator to represent them. And I think for shared governance to work, there has to be more communication between constituents, faculty and departments, and their senators, between people in the division and their senators. And,
who's my rep, reports in every meeting, and his alternate, Dana Trusso, Dr. Love, as I call her, because that's her philosophy expertise, the philosophy of love, when Sumantha's not there. So we're getting that information. And
well, yes, the reports are good, but people then need to realize that they can go to their senators to have issues tabled at the Senate meetings, and that it's not just what do we do in our department, that governance has a role to play. And I think once reports are great, but I think there needs to be communication from the other way to people, and there needs to be meetings, and senators perhaps need to have office hours if possible, and to communicate what they can do for people, just reporting about what happens,
I can't get students to show up at my office hours now. I can only imagine what would happen if I had, as a UFS senator, I had office hours. It's an interesting idea.
Well, faculty, I think, sometimes meet, informally through coffee and stuff like that. Okay, but I'll let you go on to the last part. Go ahead.
Well, no, we're already in it, but we're already in.
Okay.
But I just to go back in time again, time machine. The humanities department, when we were having this deliberation about whether the Hall of Flags should have a rainbow flag as one of the flags, I brought that back to my department meeting, and the humanities department, to their credit, said, Hugo, we want you to go back and we want you to make and there was a lot of, there were a lot of issues going on at the time, both in both directions, but they sent me back there. That was my mandate. And I walked in and I said, yeah, I'm making this motion. And I can't remember if you were the chair, who the chair was at the time, but
I was the chair.
yeah, and we put it up. And recently we found out that it was missing for whatever reasons. And
Well,
I went,
yes.
oh, well, if you're prepared to take credit for it, go right ahead.
Well, not take credit, but
I'm just saying,
I just felt that all the energy and all the arguing back and forth and all the angst that went into the whole LGBTQ flag,
right.
that I walked through the Hall of Flags, and it wasn't there. It was no longer there. And I thought, and by the way, that's the only time, because it started out on, was it GroupWise at the time? Because it started out as an email conversation that devolved into something else. That was the only time that I got notice from the president saying, I think this is something for the Senate to handle.
Yeah, well,
The only time.
and again, the Senate handled it again because Christy Bruns, I brought it to her attention, and to her credit, she brought it to the attention of the administration, and Shahir made it his business to get it back up there, and it is there again. And it, again, and it's little things like that. I mean, I remember years ago when I was in student governance, when I was involved, when Michael Rodriguez and I had our own art club, and I made myself the president, just quickly grabbed the position because I was usually the guy filling out paperwork. But one of my art teachers, who was like an old hippie from the 70s, 60s, 70s, handed me some little book about student governance and talked about, what you got to do is you have to have, you start out with small successes and you build on that. And then people start realizing, you are valuable. But as I've always said, nobody pays attention to the Senate until they have an issue. And then they show up and, all of a sudden they want the Senate's attention. And, I guess that's, again, when things are going well politically, nobody's voting. But the minute that everything starts going south, suddenly everybody's participating in the democracy again. So,
well, I mean, the college Senate should be prepared at any point in time to take on those roles, and the only way to be prepared is for people who are on the body to be aware of what the Senate has done in the past and what the Senate is possible of doing in the present. And that's again one of the reasons for this this history of the Senate, so that people learn the possibilities.
Well, to also
and the
what
role
we've done in the past and what they're entitled to do again.
Yes.
That'd be the way to put it. So we got about maybe, the outgoing music is going to be about 3 or 4 minutes. So we've got about 4 or 5 minutes. Any last little tidbits you want to share that I might not have given you a chance to, or anything you want to say to audience or otherwise? Thanks.
That I can say on there. Well, I just
Yeah, you could say
I'm just appreciative of the people who are on the College Senate now. I think it has a much more serious tone to it. There's more people willing to do work. I will mention one thing. I don't know if this will get me into trouble, but I have noticed that the number of committees on the Senate has ballooned, and
that's what you wanted.
Which can be a good thing, but as long as people, as long as people on those committees realize that they're doing work of the College Senate, and that they're connected to the College Senate, because that was one piece of the puzzle that was missing when I became chair. Is we had these committees, and it had been so long that any connection had been made to the College Senate that the people running the committees didn't realize where their place in the college was. So as long as that keeps going, I think then it's great.
Well, yeah, you're right. Our hats off to the folks who give their whatever it is, one Wednesday a month.
And
yeah,
some even more, you know.
even more. Well, obviously the executive committee is working. They meet between those meetings, and all the standing committees, the work that they're doing, and the reporting that goes on. Man, my hat's off, because I mean, I walked away only because I took on another governance role, and sometimes I threaten to go back. Nobody wants that. You don't want Hugo to come down there. So
No, I think we get even more people at the Senate meetings if you were down there.
Yeah, what?
We'd get even more people at the meetings if you were down there.
Yes, people certainly were worried when I had the floor. They didn't know what I'd say next. But I probably, now I'd go there and I'd just be a small, because as I've said, every time I've gone there, I've always been impressed. Leslie keeps everybody on point with the rules. I think actually the last meeting I ever attended as a rep, I suspended the rules. But we brought them back in order to finish the meeting. So that was a little something I did on behalf of Ann Bell, who was trying to get one last thing through before she retired. So I enjoyed doing that.
Okay.
But we're almost out of time. It's any last thank yous? Anything you want to say?
No, I think everybody involved in the governance is doing a great job, and I'm very happy to see the direction that Patricia Sokolsky took it in. That Loretta Capuano did a great job.
A chair. Yeah, she was a chair as well.
Yes, she kept it ticking over, going well. And no, I just see that it's doing more and more work. And I think people have to just begin to recognize that the work being done is the work of the College Senate.
All right. Well, I just want to say thank you to you. Hopefully, I didn't get you into trouble. Hopefully, I'm not in trouble.
Hopefully, I'm not. But one last thing. If there's anybody who wants to share their story about their participation or involvement with the College Senate, please contact either myself, Loretta Capuano, or Professor Sumanta Nakunda, and we'll get in touch with you. Or if anybody wants to work on the committee.
Yeah, let's start the conga line.
Yeah.
So thank you, Charles. So today my guest was Charles Keys, who is I pressed the wrong button. Instructional librarian at the LaGuardia Library, and he's a former chair of the LaGuardia. And we've been discussing the Senate's archive project, where hopefully here on what's going on, we're gonna start seeing a parade of either former College Senate folks or current College Senate folks to talk about the work they've done for the College Senate, and to try to add to the institutional memory. It will become part not only of the LaGuardia Web Radio archives, but also the institutional archives. Thomas Cleary, our man in the library, in the archives. So thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. And I want to go out the way we came in. Mr. Pope, please take us out.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you, Hugo. Thank you, Christopher. And thank you, Jamie.